Now, Executive Suites with WPRI.com reporter Ted Nisi.
Welcome to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi, always glad to have you with us. And today we have two quite different businesses, but both with some very interesting perspectives to provide to us today. Later on, we're going to talk to Heidi Guerard, who is the founder and CEO of Heidi Hope Photographers. It's a very large, fast-growing photography business, so we're going to talk about how that's grown and where it's come from. But first, I'm very pleased to be joined by Keith Kelly. Keith is the president of Citizens Bank here in Rhode Island. Keith, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Ted. I appreciget the opportunity to be here today.
You have your Citizens pin on. You're in
Absolutely.
full mode. We had Bruce Van Zant on not too long ago. I think he brought his pin too, so you guys, you know what you're doing when you get on TV here. We've talked a lot. We've done a number of shows since this episode, since this show started on Citizens. We tracked how when you spun off from Royal Bank of Scotland, which used to be the parent company, now you're independent. You're now a couple of years into being an independent bank once again. How's that going for Citizens?
So far, it's been great for us. I mean, it's been an interesting transition as we moved away from and decoupled from RBS. There were a number of platforms that we had to build out as part of that decoupling. We had to spend a lot of money on the technology side, and we also had to build up some of our fee-based businesses, which led to a recent acquisition for Western Reserve Partners. So it's been a tremendous opportunity for us to chart our own course as we continue to be the number one bank here in the region.
Yeah, I know it wouldn't be polite to badmouth your old owner, but is it easier for the Citizens executives here in America to make decisions now, since you don't have to get London's permission or get Scotland's permission? Do you feel a different flexibility being independent?
I think there is some level of flexibility. We're certainly working very closely with our U.S. regulators when we were part of RBS, so I don't think that the way we operate has changed, but I think it has made it a little easier to just be a U.S. bank and U.S. headquartered institution.
Still headquartered right here in Providence, of course, but right now your biggest local initiative is undoubtedly it's this big new corporate campus that Citizens is building, underway now over in Johnston. We have some pictures I think we're going to show of that from months back, so it's gone well beyond what you're seeing here, but this was some of the excited kickoff with the political leaders and others. Can you just give us a status update? Is that project on track? How far along is it? When do you expect to be in there?
Well, it's certainly a great project for us. It's a 123-acre campus that we're excited about having our colleagues move into. Really what it's doing for us is giving us the ability to relocate a number of other locations throughout the state into a centralized facility, which gives us the ability to attract and retain talent, gives us the ability to be more efficient with our processes, and I think we're excited about getting in there. We expect to move into the facility sometime in August of next year, and it's really been a great partnership between us, the City of Johnston, and the State of Rhode Island, and all of the agencies that were involved in the program. It was not an easy process to start, because you looked at the site. There were a lot of challenges we had to deal with. There was a landfill on the site, which we had to clean up. In addition to that, there was a lot of ledge on the site, so there was a lot of blasting that we had to undertake. So there was really a lot of site work that we had to do before we were ready to put the foundations in. As part of the work that we had to do, we used 83,000 pounds of explosives to really level all of the ledge that was there, and then we crushed over 129 million pounds of stone to get the site ready as well, which if you compare that to Gillette Stadium, it's 3.5 times the weight of all of the steel that was used in Gillette Stadium to build that stadium. So it was a tremendous undertaking, and Mike Knipper and his team from Citizens Bank did a great job coordinating with city officials and state officials and all of the permitting agencies to get us where we are today. And I think one of the great things about the program is it's not only going to benefit us, but also the residents of Johnston, because we built an on-off ramp, the 295 on-off ramp there, as well as we've got 60 acres of open space that are going to be utilized for the town residents. We've got walking trails there. We've got ball fields. So it's really going to be a facility that's going to benefit not only us, but the residents of Johnston. So we're excited about being in there.
Now, people are going to see this gleaming new campus go up as they're driving on 295, and I'm sure the questions will come. Do you expect any additional hiring once the campus is open, once you're up and running, or will it just be folks that are sort of scattered around right now coming into the same place?
I think right now it's just going to be the consolidation of some other office facilities we have in Rhode Island into that site. Initially, we're going to have 3,200 colleagues there, and I think the goal, we'll see how we fit in there to see what the expansion plans are. So I think right now it's really to get us acquainted with that site, get people familiar with the building, the facility, and just really get our sea legs under us as we take full advantage of the capabilities that the facility will provide us.
You know, while we're talking about physical things, I always like to ask when bank executives are on about where your head is right now on the future of the brick and mortar bank branch. You know, a few things more iconic than the local bank branch, but we see all these retailers closing down, people saying everything's going online. What's your view right now on how much demand you're going to have in the next 5, 10 years for your actual bank branches and what you're going to do with that?
Yeah. Ted, that's an interesting question because obviously we're all seeing and feeling the Amazon phenomenon as you're looking at, as you said, these retailers closing up. But I think as we look at our branch network, and here in Rhode Island we have 78 branches throughout the state, which is the largest branch network of any bank here in Rhode Island. So we look at branches as a positive for us. But we look at, we're also looking at how we right-size those branches. And what I mean is we don't need as many teller lines as we have in the branches right now. So we're looking at redesigning the branches to make them more conducive to consultative discussions with customers, talking to them about what are their retirement plans, are they saving for retirement, do they need to save for children's education, and really provide those the consultation that they need to think about what do they need to do today, 4 and 5 and 10 years down the road for their personal finances.
Interesting. So a little more of a counseling session, a little less of can you give me $20
exactly.
on the other side of the desk. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Keith Kelly about Citizens Bank, what they're up to as they grow not only in Rhode Island but nationally. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi. Later on in the show, we're going to talk to the founder of Heidi Hope Photographers, what they're doing and how they're growing that business more than you might expect for a photography studio. But right now, very pleased to be joined by the Rhode Island president of Citizens Bank, Keith Kelly. And Keith, one of the things I always find interesting when we have banking folks on is bankers in a way are a little like reporters. You're always talking to a lot of different people, triaging information, try to see what's going on. So I'm curious, we're coming up to the end of 2017. When you think about what you're hearing from your clients, from the folks you do commercial lending with, what's your view on where the Southern New England economy is here at the end of 2017, and what do you think the outlook is for 2018?
I think from what we're hearing from our clients, I think the economy continues to be good. You look at unemployment at 4.3%, the lowest we've had in a very long time. So I think people are feeling comfortable about what's happening. I think they're concerned about what's going to happen in Washington, D.C. with tax reform and the Affordable Care Act as that continues to wind its way through. So I think people are cautiously optimistic about where this year is going to end up and what next year is going to look like.
Yeah, and so you don't see any big storm clouds on the horizon at the moment?
Hard to say because you can never say you can never tell what's going to come out of Washington.
True banker's answer. Yeah, we got to keep careful on that. An interesting new initiative you had. We were talking about the old school banking of the retail branches. Something you guys rolled out that caught my eye a couple months back. It's called Specify, and it's this consumer tech product kind of aimed at millennials. Clearly, you're looking at sort of different ways to engage with banking customers in different generations. What's the thinking on this?
Similar to what we talked about earlier with the effect on the retail side, it's really giving our customers the option to bank whenever and wherever they want to. So Specify is a digital investment and advisory platform. And really what that does is it gives the individual, in this case primarily millennials, the ability to create their own investment platform. It's a customizable product. They go in, they set their own investment parameters, their risk tolerances, and then they start using the program. And it really provides specific advice tailored to what their needs are. It's a platform that's continuously monitored. It's rebalanced on a regular basis so they don't have to worry about getting outside of their risk tolerances. So it's a program that we're very excited about. And Citizens Bank was the first large regional bank to offer an integrated digital banking and investment advisory platform. So it's something that we're pretty excited about, and we think it's going to really increase the access for people who want to get into the investment side and look at planning for their future. And
what's the take-up been like? Is it reaching people? Is it meeting what you hoped when you rolled it out?
Yeah, one of the things that we're seeing is because the minimum investment is only $5,000, it's really accessible to a lot of individuals. And with the management fees, they're typically half of what you'd find in a managed investment account. So I think people are excited about it, and we're starting starting to get some good traction with it.
Interesting. Another thing that you've done new, you alluded to it earlier, Citizens acquired a company called Western Reserve Partners, and it's, in layman's terms, how does that fit into what Citizens is doing and some of the things you've been focusing on more since you became independent from RBS?
So Western Reserve, we acquired them over the summer. They're headquartered in Ohio, and really what they are is a boutique investment banking operation. And really that's one of the product sets that we were lacking with our customers, as a lot of our customers are from the baby boom generation. Some of them are looking to continue to expand their business. Some are looking at selling a division or selling the whole company. Western Reserve Partners is a group that we can bring in that can help provide investment advisory services to those customers. So they've developed a strong niche in the Midwest, which is one of the areas we're looking to grow. And it's an opportunity for us to introduce our clients to Western Reserve to see what opportunities there are that we can explore together.
And I was fascinated too because, say investment banking, I think New York, I think Wall Street. Yeah, how did they end up having an investment bank in Ohio?
It's amazing. If you look across the country, there are small boutique investment banks everywhere. So we had been working with Western Reserve Partners in the past, and really what made this fit was the culture at Western Reserve really matched and mirrored what we have at Citizens. One of the things that we focus on is giving back to the community, and we felt that same presence with Western Reserve.
In terms of giving back to the community, Citizens obviously does a number of different community initiatives. Which ones are you excited about right now, or are you spending a lot of time on?
Well, there are three primary giving areas that we're focused on. The first is fighting hunger. So we partner with the Rhode Island Community Food Bank and promoting a number of their projects and working in the food bank itself. And then we're also, one of the other areas is teaching financial literacy. So we partner with Crossroads Rhode Island. And then finally, growing community. So we partner with Amos House. So one of the things that we pride ourselves on is our Rhode Island colleagues last year logged in more than 36,000 volunteer hours across the state working with a variety of charitable organizations throughout the state. So it's one of the things that we really pride ourselves on is giving back to the community and making that commitment to the communities that we live in and work in.
You mentioned financial literacy. You've been a banker for a number of years. Does it seem like financial literacy is getting worse, or do you think it's always, or maybe I'm getting older and getting crankier as it's like everything's getting worse?
It's not getting worse. I think it's changing. So I think one of the things that we need to do is to just re-educate people on how it's shifting, what new programs and products are out there, and how it can help them.
Yeah. Finally, we're coming up to the end of the segment here, but I have to ask, you took this job back in May 2017. Yes. Well, viewers saying, oof, banking, that's probably a dry way to spend your day. What do you like about your job?
The one thing I really like about my job is you get to meet a lot of different people across the state. I mean, one of the real strengths of Rhode Island is its people and the companies that are here and doing business here. So it's a great opportunity for me to go out and meet our customers, hear what makes their business run, what they're excited about, and how we can help them grow. So
all right.
It's been a great career move.
Keith Kelly, Citizens Bank Rhode Island president, thank you for joining me. Don't go away, though, because coming up when we come back from the break, we're going to have the founder of Heidi Hope Photographers, Heidi Guerard. We're going to talk about how that business is growing, one of those unique Rhode Island businesses we were talking about. Stick with us on Executive Suite. Welcome back to Executive Suite. I'm Ted Nisi, and right now I'm pleased to be joined by Heidi Guerard. Heidi is the founder of Heidi Hope Photographers, and it's a really interesting company with an interesting story, and I'm excited to bring it to you. Heidi, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start off. As I said, you think of a photography studio, you think of sometimes pretty small businesses. A friend maybe is posting some pictures they're taking on Facebook, starting to get a couple clients here and there. You started that way, but you now have a significantly sized business out of this. How big is Heidi Hope?
Now we do have a portrait studio with a few photographers there. We've opened up another kind of a side business called Photographer Rising, which helps consult other photographers. We sell online learning products. I've developed a line of hand-painted background reproductions. So it's sort of a few different revenue streams, all based off the studio, is sort of our home base for all of that.
But as you and I were talking before the show, and I said, you're now doing, I believe, more than $1 million a year in revenue, and I mentioned those small ones. You said, but that's how you started, right?
Absolutely.
You started this from very humble beginnings. Tell us the story of the origin on this.
So I was a high school art and photography teacher, and I took a year leave of absence to stay home with our first daughter, and I was doing a little bit of photography on the side anyways. And I approached my mom and I borrowed money from her to buy. I wanted a nice camera. I wanted to do this sort of as a side business. business, make a little extra grocery money. That was my goal. So I borrowed $7,000 from her, bought all my equipment, set up my website. I was doing it, at midnight when the baby was sleeping, and the business took off really quickly. By the end of that first year, I had done $30,000 in sales. I had started around summer, really, in the business. And for me, as a teacher, I was like, oh, well, that's pretty good. That's almost my teaching salary. So I saw the potential in it, but we continued to grow really rapidly even after that first year. So I did pay back the loan pretty quickly, and was excited about that. Yeah.
Your mom, the early investor.
She was.
You launched, I believe, was it 2009?
Yes.
Or 2009 during the Great Recession. That's not an easy time to start a business or even to maintain a business. Did that make it harder, or do you think it would have been easier if you were starting it now, today, in a healthier economy?
It's interesting because there are certain things that I had to my advantage at that point. The niche that I went into, which is newborn photography, was relatively new and up and coming, so I was able to immediately differentiate myself from other photographers in the area. So the look of my photography was initially, I think, what built my brand so fast. And I had a pretty natural inclination towards social media marketing, and so the audience was built fast, and customer demand built really fast. What I didn't have at the time was a lot of experience in running a business, and so those were the places that I really needed to learn, and I was certainly overworked. We had to build that business system underneath. It started with the art, and then I had to build the systems underneath to make it long-term, think about profitability in the years ahead, and that's how I've began diversifying and looking for different revenue streams and
changing the tire on the car while it moves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you attribute it to that's let you grow the business? You alluded to some of it there. I'd say. I know social media has been a big part of your marketing efforts, but it appears to be a very competitive space. There are a lot of photographers out there, and plenty of good photographers.
Yes, it has become really competitive, and also kind of bringing it back to the last question that you asked, when it was sort of the beginning of a lot of social media platforms when I began. So even though the economy was tough at the time, Facebook was just starting to become popular, especially in the mom generation at the time, and even things like Twitter and Instagram wasn't even invented yet then. And so whenever I jumped onto a platform when it first started, I had amazing reach, which now it's not only is the industry more competitive, and technology is, iPhones take amazing pictures, so why would somebody want to hire me to take their pictures, right? So all of those as technology has changed, those things do impact the business. And it's harder to reach people on social media, and so I think that those changes, some of them have benefited us, and some of them have kind of made us need to increase our marketing efforts, learn more about everything, spend more in marketing right. To reach those same customers that we reached in the beginning.
You just mentioned this. This is one of the questions I had. Everyone has a camera on them now, all the time, right, in your smartphone. But it seems like there is still a sizable demand for professional photography.
Yes.
What do you attribute that to? What do you think, did you worry that, like, as these cameras get better, people aren't going to pay for a photographer?
I don't worry about that too much, because I know from the experience of our business that as long as you can figure out what the consumer wants and provide something to them that they can't do for themselves. So one of the things that sets our studio apart is sort of my art direction. So I'm really creative with set design, and these are things that would be very hard to replicate at home. So I may teach the basics of photography and teach you how to take great cell phone pictures, but then at some point people want to hire a professional for their level of service, for the quality that is going to stand out above and beyond, and especially parents, because moms are always the one taking the pictures of the kids, right? They never get to be in the picture with the kids. So those are the things that you would want to trust a professional for.
Another thing you mentioned earlier that I want to ask you more about, you have an arm of your business now called Photographer Rising that you mentioned. It's sort of a consulting firm for other photographers.
Yes.
What was the upside in your view to providing advice to other people who could be your competitors? Because of course, they're paying when they actually take a consulting class, but you also offer free advice on your website. You talk to folks on Facebook about how to make the business work. What's your thinking on that?
Yeah. First, teaching is a passion of mine. So I was a teacher before I was ever a photographer, and I do believe in business in general, that when you're following something that you're really passionate about, that the opportunities open, doors open for you through that. You're really following the path that you're meant to go down. So that's part of it. But I really think as a brand as a whole, it positions you as an expert within your field. So consumers our own clients come to us because they feel we are the baby experts, even though we're training some of the other photographers in our area. And there is a great demand in our industry too. So I love that public speaking and attending conferences and networking. And those are all things that teaching allows me to do. It keeps me creative. It keeps me innovative, I think, kind of on the cutting edge of what's going on in our industry. So those are all things that benefit my business on the back end.
What's the busiest time of year for you?
Right now.
We're taking November, yeah.
Yes, so holiday season. Yeah. So the babies obviously are born year round, and so that part, birth to 1 year is year round for us. But from about the summer, we start doing outdoor beach stuff all the way through the holiday season. Holiday cards is like when everybody starts to cram.
Is it hard as, when you come from an art perspective and you want to give everyone an individualized, attention and make sure, everything is tip top, but at the same time you have to stay efficient when you have the level of the number of clients you have at this point? Yes,
we do. I think that we are able to maintain a little bit of a lower volume within our studio, but I still have my hand in all of the creative aspects of the business. I'm a little bit of a control freak in that respect, but I think that that's so important. And so even if I'm not the one photographing the session, it always has my artistic stamp of approval on it before it's going out. And I think as an artist at this level, I don't think you could really scale beyond the point that we've scaled without opening up to additional revenue streams, because it's such an art-based business, and there really has to be that same eye for the work and quality of work.
I'm wondering, as I've said, there are a lot of options for people to choose photographers these days. Obviously, you'd like people to choose you, but speaking generally, what do you think people should look for when they're choosing a photographer?
I think because there are so many now, they're everywhere, I think finding an artist who you love their quality of work and you love their style, and really look for a lot of examples of the work. Look for, people should have an online presence where you're seeing a big variety of work through either their blog or through social media channels that they're posting very often, and that you love everything that they're doing. So often in portfolios, we cherry pick, here's the 10 best pictures I've ever taken in my life, but is that what a real session looks like from this photographer? And so seeing that abundance of work and that variety within the work and knowing that it all resonates with you, I think those are things to look for.
The other advice question I had to ask you is, lots of us will never be a professional photographer, but we're at the beach, we want to get a nice shot on our phones. Yep. Any advice you give people? I'm sure you have friends and family who ask you, how do I make my pictures look better?
Yeah, so I teach a class for moms too, which I love to do. It's my favorite class I teach. But the best thing when you have, especially if you're using a cell phone or whatever, light is the most important factor in photography. So finding good light, even if you're using a terrible camera, you're going to get some pretty good results with it. So the best type of light is a well-lit area that isn't direct sunlight. So open shade is really good. So at the beach, that's really difficult lighting. Yeah. If you could move somebody under the umbrella so that they're in a little bit of shade, they're not going to get those hot spots on them, but they're still well lit. That's what you want to look for.
And actually, we only have 30 seconds left, but natural light is the key for you, right? Yes. You love natural light photography.
Yes, and that's what I started with and began to master. I used to travel to clients' homes, but it became such a signature look for us, and it's so easy with that young age group not to have studio lights that even the big commercial brands that we work with now seek us out for this look because it looks natural and real, and also it's very engaging on social media. So to grow their brands, they want that look of photography too.
All right, Heidi Guerard, there's no excuse now if you take a bad picture on your cell phone because the lady herself has told you what to do. All right, Heidi, thank you so much for being here. It's Heidi Hope Photographers. Thank you for joining us. And if you missed this episode or some of this or any other episode of Executive Suite, remember they're all on our website, WPRI.com, and you can subscribe to them on iTunes as a podcast. See you back here next week.